the victims, the accused, and the sinister plot. Crime is your front row seat to darkness.
Vielleicht nur aus dem Russland.
Welcome back. Thanks for staying with us. You're watching WION World is One, and this is World DNA with me, Jyotsna Kumar. Let's begin with the headlines. Iran confirms death of its security chief, Ali Larijani, after Israel said it had killed him in an airstrike. Iran's Supreme National Security Council confirmed the death, adding that Larijani's son and his bodyguards were also killed with him. The U.S. military says it hit Iranian missile sites near the Strait of Hormuz with bunker buster bombs. U.S. Central Command says its forces successfully employed multiple 5,000-pound deep penetrator munitions on missile sites along Iran's coastline. Iran launches volley of ballistic missiles at Israel, setting off sirens across central Israel, the Jerusalem area, parts of the West Bank, and some areas in southern Israel. At least 2 people were killed in Ramat Gan. The U.S. Embassy in Baghdad was reportedly targeted by a drone strike early Wednesday morning, marking the second such assault in less than 24 hours. Iran's parliament speaker warns that shipping through the Strait of Hormuz will not return to its pre-war conditions, signaling potential long-term disruption to one of the world's most critical energy routes. U.S. President Donald Trump lashes out at NATO allies over their refusal to help the U.S. force open the Strait of Hormuz. Trump says NATO is making a foolish mistake and that he doesn't know if NATO will ever help the U.S. The Federal Reserve set to hold interest rates steady as policymakers weigh a fresh oil shock from West Asia conflict, raising risks to both inflation and economic growth, with markets watching closely for signals on the path ahead. Iran has launched a wave of attacks across West Asia and Israel after its security chief Ali Larijani was killed in an Israeli strike. Iran has confirmed the death of Ali Larijani, its powerful national security chief, after Israel said he was killed in the airstrike. Ghulam Reza Soleimani, who headed the Basij paramilitary force, was also killed in the latest Israeli strikes. Now, Larijani, who was close to the late Ayatollah Ali Khamenei, had helped lead Iran's retaliatory campaign in the war. Iran's Supreme National Security Council confirmed his death on Tuesday, hours after Israel said it killed him in an airstrike.
Dear and proud nation of Iran, the servant of God has joined God. The pure souls of the martyrs, the sanctified spirit of God's righteous servant, martyr Dr. Ali Larijani, have embraced him. After a lifetime of struggle in the pursuit of elevating Iran and the Islamic Revolution, he finally achieved his long-awaited aspiration.
Israel has also vowed to hunt down and neutralize Iran's new supreme leader, Mojtaba Khamenei. While Mojtaba Khamenei has not been seen in public since he was appointed, the 68-year-old Larijani has been the face of Iran's retaliation. Now, Larijani was last seen on Tehran streets during Quds Day parade, where he walked with thousands of people. The parade saw Iran's top leadership figures coming out amid Israeli and American bombing on the capital. Israel's Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu has said Ali Larijani is dead. In a video statement, Netanyahu said Ali Larijani and the IRGC's Basij Force commander Gholam Reza Soleimani have been assassinated in the ongoing war.
This morning, we eliminated Ali Larijani. Ali Larijani is the boss of the Revolutionary Guards, which is a gang of gangsters that in practice runs Iran. Alongside him, we also eliminated the commander of the Basij, the helpers of the gangsters, who spread terror in the streets of Tehran and other Iranian cities against the population. We are operating there as well, operating from the air with Air Force aircraft and with UAVs.
Iran's Fars and Tasnim agencies reported that their funeral will be held on Wednesday morning in central Tehran. Ali Larijani was considered to be a key figure within Iran's power structure. He allegedly played an important role in putting down January protests in Iran. According to reports, he sidelined President Masoud Pezeshkian to lead diplomatic, security, and military operations under the direct authority of the supreme leader. Larijani was a former IRGC commander who had served on many positions in Islamic Republic since 1980. After 8 years in IRGC, he was appointed Minister of Culture in 1992. Then he headed the official broadcast network of Iranian government for a decade. In 2005, he was appointed Secretary of Iran's Supreme National Council. From 2008 to 2020, Larijani served as Speaker of Parliament. And last year, he was reappointed to National Security Council by Ayatollah Ali Khamenei. And to discuss more, we are now being joined live by Dr. Murthy Muthuswamy from Washington, D.C. He is a nuclear physicist and an independent scholar of Islamist extremism. Thank you so much for joining on the broadcast. I'd like to begin with the big news here. Iran has confirmed the death of its powerful national security chief, Ali Larijani, and Israel said that he was killed in an airstrike. He had helped lead Iran's retaliatory campaign in the war that we just reported. And with him gone, who do you think will be leading going forward?
First of all, thanks for having me. I would say that killing of Mr. Larijani is going to be a problem, not only for Iran, but also for the U.S., because U.S. is not going to have a reputable figure it can reach a deal with. So that's a problem. But I think that with regard to Iran, it's going to be difficult for them to replace somebody because he's a well-known figure. As you pointed out, he was close to the supreme leader, and it's going to be a big problem for Iran in terms of who can replace this long-standing leader of the revolution.
And Israel has now again vowed to hunt down and neutralize Iran's new leader, Mojtaba Khamenei, with its top leaders falling one by one. Does Iran actually have the power to prolong the war as of now? Because Mojtaba Khamenei has not really come out in public. Does he have the power to lead anymore?
Yeah, we don't know that at this point because there is an expectation in Israel and probably also in the US that at some point, if the leaders are being taken down one by one, the regime may collapse. But we don't have enough information to decide at this point whether the regime is going to collapse or not, or somebody else is going to come down and lead the Islamic Republic.
All right, Doctor, I would just like you to just stay with us because we have some breaking news coming in. I'll take your reaction on that first. So we breaking news coming in right now from the United Arab Emirates. Now, there has been an attack on Australia's military headquarters for the region. A suspected Iranian projectile hit near the facility, the Al Minhad Air Base near Dubai. Now, Australian Prime Minister Anthony Albanese has confirmed about the attack, adding no one was hurt. Now, Iran has launched a wave of attacks across West Asia after its security chief Ali Larijani was killed in an Israeli strike. Iranian Army Chief Amir Hatmi has threatened a decisive and regrettable retaliation for the killing of Larijani. The Revolutionary Guards, Iran's powerful military force that is separate from the army, has said that it has launched missiles at central Israel in revenge for Larijani. An Iranian missile barrage targeting Israel killed 2 people near Tel Aviv, and Israel's National Railway Company had to suspend operations due to a shrapnel impact at a station in the city. The missile barrage that triggered air raid signs across the country, and authorities have reported that falling munitions had hit multiple sites in central Israel. In Baghdad, meanwhile, Iraqi officials have reported a drone and rocket attack targeting the U.S. Embassy. And then this is the latest explosion that came hours after multiple blasts were heard across the Iraqi capital. Saudi Arabia, on the other hand, has intercepted several drones, and Kuwait's air defenses have responded to a rocket and drone attack. The Saudi Defense Ministry has said it had destroyed a total of 6 drones in the east of the country, and Kuwait's military has said its air defenses are currently intercepting hostile rocket and drone attacks. These are the latest coming in from the Gulf states, with UAE reporting that there has been an attack on Australia's military headquarters for the region. Doctor, I'd like to come to you and take your reaction on this, because after the killing of Larijani, it seems like there has been a massive attack that Iran has now put on Israel. And we see not just on Israel, but also the Gulf states, and this particular attack on Australia's military headquarters for the region. This is new because, of course, Iran has been targeting U.S. bases. Do you see there is a decentralization of power, and seems like they're just retaliating without any leader or any kind of target as of now, and they're just attacking whatever comes in their view?
I think that's a very valid point. So what has happened is that not only Iran has escalated its attacks, but escalated in a more serious fashion, right? The attack on Israel that happened recently, that used cluster bombs, first of all, have been banned against the use. Still, the Iranian IRGC leadership has managed to attack Israel with this cluster bomb, which was directed at civilians. And then with regard to its Arab neighbors, Iran is now lashing out at, as you pointed out, the Australian defense local base or an office, so to speak. So you are right that Iran is now taking the escalation to the next level since the killing of Mr. Larijani.
And how far they can go, because we've seen that they have been stretching this for 2 weeks. They don't have a leader who's going to lead them. They've just been blindly attacking as of now, because of course we can call it a defense or whatever we might say, but as of now, how long can Iran actually go? Not just regarding the leader, but also ammunitions that they may have in their stockpile.
Right, you are raising a very valid point here. It's possible that they may not be able to continue this for a long time. That is again the hope of Israel and America, and also Iran's Arab neighbors. So we have to wait and see what happens within the next few days or so. If these attacks do not escalate, then that would imply that Iran is running out of ideas and ammunition.
So let's also talk about the Iranian regime here. The Iran's political order seems to be factored from within. President Masoud Pezeshkian, according to reports, we are not confirming this, but there are reports that saying that he's waiting to resign because, of course, when it looks like, the leaders that Israel has been attacking, he might be on the list. We do not know. So how do you assess the political scenario in Iran as of now internally?
Clearly, the leaders are on the run. If someone is designated, Israel has said that they will take over that person. So this is a problem for Iran. So we have to wait and see within the next few days what happens. If at some point the supreme leader has to come out, if he is alive and well. If he doesn't come out, then he also loses credibility of being the supreme leader of Iran. So we just have to see within the next few days to a week or so what happens to the so-called leadership void that has developed in Iran.
Right. And also in the case of when we talk about nuclear situation right now, now of course, we are waiting for when America actually attacks these. They have been attacking nuclear facilities, but these are underground right now. We do not know how much uranium they have. And you had mentioned that 2004 is when America had actually got all of these and extracted all of the Iraqi uranium enrichment or whatever they had, and they took it back to US. So do you think that could be a scenario with Iran as of now?
That could happen, very well happen, as a matter of fact. See, I have to tell you, our listeners, that in 2004, this is immediately after the fall of Saddam's regime in Iraq, the US government went in there and they extracted 750 kilograms of enriched uranium and then few other radiation material. They took them back to the US and then dispensed them. So it took them about 50 days to do so, right? So the US has the capability to be able to extract enriched uranium. So in the case of Iran, what has happened is that the International Atomic Energy Agency, IAEA, has been monitoring their program for a long time. So the US and others have a pretty good idea of how much enriched uranium Iran has and where they likely are. The estimates are that Iran has about 450 kilograms of enriched uranium. And most of it is in a nuclear facility called Isfahan. That's where they are. It's about south of Tehran. So from what we understand, the US may have a plan, along with Israel, to go into this facility and open up the tunnels. They're going to be hiding somewhere in the tunnels and take them back. This may require a major military build-up to be able to do that. But that is one of the things that is being discussed, from what I understand, both in Tel Aviv and in Washington.
Also, I'd like to come back to the internal issues in Iran. Larijani was also a key figure who played an important role in putting down the January purges in Iran. How are the Iranians looking at this? How do you analyze? Because Trump has been calling for the Iranians to make a regime change. Netanyahu has been calling for that to happen. With a break in political leadership as of now, do you think that is a possibility?
According to Western intelligence agencies, both Israeli and American, what they are saying is that the guns are with the Islamic Republican God Corps. The public who oppose these people have no arms. So it is very difficult for them to organize and mount a revolution, so to speak, to get rid of these people. So at this point, it doesn't look very likely, again, according to Western intelligence agencies.
And do you think that Trump, I would say Trump administration would ever considering boots on the ground? Because we know that the Kharg Island is one that has been attacked by U.S. and there was a possibility, as Trump said, to put boots on ground. Do you think there is a possibility as of now? Because the top leadership is almost gone. Moshtaba Khamenei is not really seen anywhere. Do you think there's a possibility of boots on the ground right now?
I think that America has been burned by putting boots on the ground in Afghanistan and also in Iraq, right? We don't want to do that. I think what they are thinking at the moment is to capture the Kharg Island. For that, they have to send the Marines to be able to do that. From what we understand, there is a ship carrying Marines that is moving toward the Gulf of near the Iran border. And also, with regard to boots, they may send special operation forces to go and take over the enriched uranium from the Iranian site, Isfahan. So those are the only two possibilities we have at this time. With regard to the U.S. Army going in and then instigate and support the Iranian public to take over the country at this point is very unlikely.
Also, we don't really have a lot of time because lots to discuss, but in very short, if you could also help us understand. So we have another aspect. We have Hezbollah, who has been fighting. We have the IRGs, who's been attacking. Houthis are someone who have been quiet for so long. They played a massive role in the Gaza war. Do you think at this point, with Larijani gone, the top leader has been assassinated, Pezeshkian seemingly the next leader on the radar of Israel, do you think that it is time, we talk about the 0 hour, do you think that soon we can see the Houthi being involved?
Well, I think that Israelis have hit the Houthis pretty bad in the last year actually. So because of that, the Houthis leadership is weak, and they are not as organized as they were before. So it's very unlikely at this time that the Houthis will get involved anytime soon.
All right, of course, also we have Trump, who has been complaining about the Strait of Hormuz and the Western nations not really supporting him. But of course, we'll have to wait and see how that issue comes in. But thank you so much. Pretty much less time here, but thank you so much for joining us on the broadcast and giving your insights. I appreciate it.
Yeah, thank you for having me.
All right, we'll be taking a very short break right now. Coming up, the Strait of Hormuz is facing disruptions. Fuel supplies are tightening and prices are surging. Governments across the world are being forced into tough choices, cutting energy use, tapping reserves, and shielding consumers. We'll get you all the details on the other side of this very short break. Don't go anywhere.
Vielleicht nur als 5%.
Welcome back. We begin with a top U.S. counterterrorism official who has now resigned in the protest over the Iran war. And he's written that the Iran posed no imminent threat to the nation in his resignation letter to President Donald Trump. Joe Kent is who we're talking about, who led the National Counterterrorism Center and was a top aide to Intelligence Director Tulsi Gabbard. And he is the first senior Trump administration official to resign over the war in Iran. Kent, a conservative politician and former CIA paramilitary officer, alleged that the U.S. went to war due to pressure from Israel and its powerful American lobby. He also claimed that Trump had been duped by a misinformation campaign. The Trump administration is moving to contain the fallout of Kent's resignation. Now, Trump later told reporters it was a good thing.
Other states are 10, and this is, if it's in a red. Well, I read his statement. I always thought he was a nice guy, but I always thought he was weak on security, very weak on security. I didn't know him well, but I thought he seemed like a pretty nice guy. But when I read his statement, I realized that it's a good thing that he's out, because he said that Iran was not a threat. Iran was a threat. Every country realized what a threat Iran was. The question is whether or not they wanted to do something about it.
Press Secretary Caroline Leavitt has published a lengthy statement rejecting Kent's allegations, saying his resignation letter was riddled with false claims. She termed the idea that Israel goaded President Trump into action insulting and laughable. Well, for more on this, our correspondent Susan Tenani sent us this report. Let's listen in.
Joe Kent's resignation from the National Counterterrorism Center over objections to the U.S. war against Iran has put a spotlight on divisions inside the Republican Party. Until now, most criticism regarding these strikes came from familiar outside voices, GOP skeptics in Congress, and commentators like Tucker Carlson and Megyn Kelly. But Kent's resignation marks a shift, signaling dissent from within the national security establishment. The White House is dismissing claims about internal divisions, but in the middle of an active war, this is significant. Now, whether it suggests serious fractures are emerging internally, well, that may be too soon to tell, but it raises questions about how unified the administration really is at this point. Susan Taprani reporting from New York for WION World is One.
And with the Strait of Hormuz, the artery for nearly a fifth of global oil and gas trade, facing disruptions, fuel supplies are tightening and prices are surging. From Asia to Europe, governments are being forced into tough choices, cutting energy use, tapping reserves, and shielding consumers, even as shortages begin to hit businesses and industries. Now, here's a detailed look at how this crisis is unfolding and why the impact can spread far beyond the region. We'll leave you with this report. Do stay tuned. News and updates will follow on the other side. You're watching WION World is One. Stay tuned.
The escalating conflict with Iran is triggering a major global energy shock, pushing several economies into what experts call energy triage. And this is where governments are forced to decide how to ration limited fuel supplies or absorb rising costs. At the heart of the crisis is the Strait of Hormuz. With disruptions intensifying, supply chains are tightening rapidly. Asia is the most exposed. The region depends heavily on imported energy, and over 80% of LNG shipments through Hormuz are destined for Asian markets like Japan, South Korea and Taiwan. Across Southeast Asia, the response has been immediate and visible. Governments are actively cutting energy consumption to stretch limited reserves. The Philippines has shifted to a 4-day work week, aiming to reduce government energy use by 20%. Vietnam is encouraging remote work, while Thailand is pushing conservation measures, even urging officials to avoid elevators. Thailand has also halted fuel exports to protect domestic reserves. In the rest of Asia, the focus has shifted to strategic reserves. Japan, which holds around 254 days of oil stockpiles, has already released about 45 days worth of reserves. South Korea is set to release over 22 million barrels as part of a coordinated effort. However, analysts warn these are only short-term buffers. Reserve releases can keep refineries running for a few weeks, but they do not solve the underlying supply shortage. If disruptions persist, industrial production cuts may become unavoidable. In populous economies like India, the priority is to protect households. The government is absorbing over half of the LPG price increase to shield consumers, especially lower income groups. But the strain is already visible. As one of the world's largest LPG importers, India is seeing shortages spill over into restaurants and small businesses, with many cutting operations due to rising costs and limited supply. Elsewhere, the situation is equally fragile. Indonesia has just 20 days of fuel reserves, while Pakistan faces the risk of LNG supplies running out by mid-April. With crude stocks lasting barely 11 days, Sri Lanka has already begun shutting schools midweek to conserve fuel. The crisis is now spreading beyond Asia, with fuel importing economies in Africa and other regions bracing for similar disruptions. In Europe, policymakers are focusing on long-term solutions like clean energy, while also working on short-term relief for businesses and households. With supply chains strained and demand competing globally, the world is entering a prolonged phase of energy stress. Business Bureau, WION, World is One.
From the bustling trading floors of Wall Street to the vibrant exchanges of Asian stock markets, WION breaks it down for you to make sense of what's happening, as we reveal the key factors behind events, strategic battles, and the game-changing business decisions that shape the world. We bring you all of this and more on World Business Watch.
WION, India's global voice, the channel that brings you the biggest stories from across the world through India's lens. Now available in more than 190 countries worldwide, because we believe that the world is one. Watch us in Africa, Europe, USA and Canada, South America, Asia Pacific, Middle East and North African regions. Also available on these digital platforms across the world. WION. World is one.
Get the latest updates.
Destroy their
Breaking
missiles
news.
and raise their...
Credible, clear, continuous. Experts across aisles. Diverse voices, one platform. WION World is one.
vielleicht nur als Imposant.
Thanks for staying with us. You're watching WION World is One. I'm Adhya Janeja. To start with the headlines we're tracking for you at this hour. Iranian army chief says Tehran will launch a decisive retaliation for the killing of security chief Ali Larijani in an Israeli airstrike. At least 2 people were killed near Tel Aviv as Iran launched a volley of ballistic missiles at Israel. The missiles set off sirens across central Israel, the Jerusalem area, parts of the West Bank and some areas in southern Israel.
Yeah, the Al Minyad base, which is an Australian base located in the UAE.
How many Australians do we have at that base?
Australian Prime Minister Anthony Albanese say no Australians were injured after an Iranian projectile hit near Australia's West Asia military headquarters in the United Arab Emirates. The US Embassy in Baghdad was reportedly targeted by a drone strike early Wednesday morning, marking the second such assault in less than 24 hours. The US military says it hit Iranian missile sites near the Strait of Hormuz with bunker buster bombs. The US Central Command says its forces successfully employed multiple 5,000-pound deep penetrator munitions on missile sites along Iran's coastline. Iran's parliament speaker warns that shipping through the Strait of Hormuz will not return to its pre-war conditions, signaling potential long-term disruption to one of the world's most critical energy routes. Oil prices fell as US crude stocks jumped, with Brent near $102 and US crude at $95. Iraq resumed exports to Turkey. Libya rerouted oil after a fire, and tensions rise after Iran's Larijani was killed and US struck sites near the Strait of Hormuz. Iran has vowed to escalate strikes against Israeli and US targets in the Gulf in retaliation over the killing of top security chief Ali Larijani. According to Iranian state TV, Tehran carried out a massive retaliatory missile strike targeting Tel Aviv with